It's a crime, Mr. Collins.
It surely is. After all, even breaking up an international crime ring doesn't justify another woman's borrowing your husband for a honeymoon. Now, does it? Even if said husband happens to be a private detective named Greg Collins. Yes, this is Gail Collins speaking. And I'll be back in a minute to set the stage for our puzzling crime.
It's a crime, Mr. Collins. Tell me, Gail, how could another woman borrow your husband?
Why, it was as easy as pie, Mort. She just stopped and asked Greg was he willing to pose as her husband.
Was she a looker?
She looked like Ava Gardner, Marilyn Monroe, and Gina Lollobrigida all mixed up in one, Mort.
Oh, so Greg accepted the invitation.
Accepted it? He grabbed it with both hands. Well, I'll tell you about it, Mort. You see, the British government was moving valuables back to London, and Greg had been called in by insurance companies connected with the project to act as a private consultant on a special fee basis. So we sailed for England. At sea, I'd gone topside for suntan. Greg had gone below for a Tom Collins. He was just leaving the bar alone and heading for the stairway when a very exotic young lady came up to him. She looked as if she'd just stepped out of a perfume ad. Please, I'm in trouble. You've got to help me.
What's wrong?
You've got to say you're my husband. I can't explain now, but it's terribly important. You must believe me. This isn't a joke or a trick. I'm very serious about it.
Look, I may have just come from the bar, but I'm perfectly sober. There's nothing wrong with me, so if this is any kind of gimmick at all, funny or not, I'm just not interested.
It's a matter of life and death. Pretend you're my husband for a few minutes. That's all I ask. I'll explain later.
Sounds like a great way to get mixed up in a brawl or a lawsuit. Why don't you try somebody else, man?
I'm telling you that you'll save my life if you'll do it. Those men, the two men coming toward us now. See them?
Friends of yours?
No, I told you I can't explain. Just say you're my husband. Oh, for heaven's sake, I beg of you, don't let me down.
Yeah, but what did...
Here they come.
Hi, Lola.
Hello, Ted.
You remember Jerry, don't you?
Sure she does. How've you been, Lola?
Oh, fine, thank you. I don't believe you've met my husband, have you? It's Ted Craven and Jerry Silver. This is my husband, Harry.
Glad to meet you, Harry.
Hello, Ted. We've heard a lot about you. I'm glad to know you, too, Jerry.
We've been looking all over the boat for you, Lola. But then I suppose you two honeymooners have made it your business to be alone, huh?
I'm sorry we didn't get to your wedding. We were...
It was my fault, Jerry. I told Harry it would be in bad taste, so a second wedding for me. I didn't want a very elaborate ceremony, so we just stole away.
We've had to apologize to a lot of our friends. Perhaps have a little reception in England, eh, Lola?
I think we should, Harry, darling.
I've heard many interesting stories about you, Harry.
Yeah. We could hardly wait to meet you.
I almost got to see you in Washington, but when were you there?
About 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's about right.
Well, look who's coming.
Who?
That girl. She's an old friend of mine. Gail Collins, of all people.
Hello, Greg. I was just going...
Well, Gail Collins, I haven't seen you in years. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Just fine.
How's your husband?
I was just going... My what?
I said, how's your husband?
Oh, you mean Alphonse?
That's it. I can never remember his name. Gail, meet my wife, Lola.
I'll wait to say that. Your wife? How do you do, Gail? How do you do?
This is Ted and Jerry.
Hello.
Hello. You think we're running into so many old friends today, Lola, aren't we?
Mrs. Collins, did you know that these two are honeymooners?
No, I certainly did not. Really?
Well, I guess Lola and I can't keep it a secret much longer.
Oh, you must all meet my husband sometime. Of course, he's not well.
He isn't?
The gas came back.
It did?
And he still has that eye trouble.
Eye trouble?
Yes, my poor husband. Cross-eyed, you know.
Well, I think we'd better be running along, huh?
Running along?
Yeah, we'll leave these two lovebirds alone.
Surely. Come on.
Lovebird?
See you again sometime, Gail.
I should hope so.
Oh, come on, darling. We'll go back to our cabin.
Okay, dear. Bye.
Goodbye.
now.
Hey, care to join us for a stroll around the deck, Mrs. Collins?
Well, yes, I'd be glad to.
Those two make a lovely couple, don't they?
Magnificent.
She's got quite a catch in him, I'd say. Handsome fella.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Striking couple. Probably have beautiful babies.
They'll what?
Oh, look out, Mrs. Collins. You'll trip on that steamer chair.
Oh!
Here, I'll help you.
Oh.
There you are. You seem so struck by what I said, I guess you didn't see it.
Yes, what was it you said?
I said, I imagine they'll have beautiful babies.
Yes. That's what did it. Yes. I was burning up. Not from suntan either. A gag is a gag, fellas, let's face it. But what in the world was Greg doing masquerading as a husband of this pin-up girl? My husband, gallivanting around doing the mambo and standing in the moonlight with her. Then the shock wore off and I began thinking. Jerry and Ted began to strike me as rather tough customers. There was something insidious, probably quite vicious, underneath this monkey business on board ship. I know Greg well enough to realize he'd only be in it if he knew the score. So I let it ride a while. I knew Greg and Lola were alone later in her cabin.
I don't know how to thank you, Mr.
Collins, Greg Collins.
Oh, then that girl we met.
She's really my wife. Luckily, she picked up my hint and played the part correctly. Gail is my wife, unless she's changed her mind by now.
I'm terribly sorry.
It's all right. Gail's a good kid. She'll understand when I explain it to her. And by the way, Lola, how do you explain this? Why did you have to sort of manufacture a husband for yourself out of thin air?
Well, my husband, Harry, is with an international bank. We were in Washington until recently. Then we had word that Harry's uncle died and left us quite a sizable fortune. To collect it, we had to appear at a hearing in England. In Sheffield, as a matter of fact. Those two men are Harry's cousins.
I suppose they're named as heirs in the will, too, huh?
Yes, but unfortunately, they're not exactly very good characters. Ted has a police record, and Jerry's been in some very questionable deals. Harry and I were afraid that, well, since so much money is involved, we were afraid.
They'd try to kill Harry and collect the whole amount of the will themselves.
Yes, the will stipulates if Harry dies, Ted and Jerry get all the money.
Where's Harry now?
In England, I hope. We concocted a scheme. He flew across secretly on the Clipper. He lied and told everyone he'd be on the boat. Those were all his trunks over there. We put the luggage on board deliberately. Luckily, Ted and Jerry have never seen Harry. I didn't expect them to be on this boat. That's what frightens me even more.
I see. They appeared, so you had to produce a husband, a Harry. Well, you can't very well keep this hoax going all the way across, can you?
I could, if you'd help me. If you'd act as my husband for the whole trip.
Oh, I see.
You would save my husband's life and more than $100,000. I don't know what might happen if Ted and Jerry found out Harry's not on board.
You're forgetting they think I'm your husband. They might start taking pot shots at me.
I'll make it worth your while, whatever you say.
I was just thinking.
Yes.
Might not be too bad. Romantic European crossing with two wives.
Of course, I didn't hear this conversation. If I had, I'd have told Lola just where she got off. But keep your ears peeled, friends. We'll be back in a minute with more of our story. Late that night, Greg met me out on deck. It was pitch black, so we decided to risk a stroll together. Greg told me the story.
Shall we do what Lola wants, darling? Keep up the masquerade?
Well, Romeo,
It looks as if you decided that already. Why ask me?
I'll stop if you want, Gail. Just say the word and I'll call the whole thing out.
Greg, darling.
Wait, be quiet. People are coming. Come over here. No one must see us together.
Where we go?
Behind this lifeboat. Hurry. Careful. That's it. Duck down behind this one. That's it.
Cozy back here. Now, pal.
Come closer.
I don't hear any people coming.
Oh, there aren't any.
Greg, come on.
I just thought if you and I sat down behind this lifeboat where nobody could see us, it could have been parked in Observation Hill, my old jalopy. Remember those nights?
Remember them? Of course I do.
Look at that rolling water. And the stars just above the masthead. Just like one of those nights together back in New Mexico.
Why in the world?
Careful down the deck. That way.
Greg, the alarm bell.
Man overboard! Man overboard! Man overboard!
Greg, wipe that lipstick off your cheek.
Right. And you have a smudge of white paint in your nose, baby. Unless you just painted that lifeboat. Here, take my handkerchief.
Man overboard!
They're lowering a lifeboat for him, see?
There goes the searchlight. Oh, they'll find him.
Where is he? Have they spotted him? Out there, Ted. You see where I'm pointing? The searchlight seems to be concentrating there. You see? Oh, hello, Harry. Did you see him go over?
No, Ted. Mrs. Collins and I didn't see a thing.
Where's Lola?
Why, she's,
Isn't it awful? Did they find the man yet?
not yet, Lola. They're looking for him. You shouldn't have come out that way. You'll freeze in those pajamas.
I was so frightened when the bell rang. I just jumped out of bed and ran to the deck.
And just return to your cabin, please. Return to your cabin, please. Keep the deck clear.
I returned to my cabin. Greg went with Lola to her cabin. They never recovered the body, although they did their best. The ship's officers checked each cabin to find out who was missing. After the checkup, the announcement was made that Greg Collins was missing. They questioned me, sometimes quite firmly, sort of implying I'd pushed my husband overboard or something. Nobody on board knew what he looked like except me. So I made up a description that didn't fit Greg at all, since he was supposed to be Harry Prentice, Lola's husband. Greg went on playing the role for Lola's sake. A bit too enthusiastically, I thought sometimes. Anyway, he'd steal back to my cabin occasionally and bring me up to date. The night before we were to dock at Southampton, I got a note from Lola asking me to come to her cabin.
I'm so glad you've come, Mrs. Collins. I wanted to thank you. I suppose it sounds ridiculous saying thanks for the use of your husband.
All right, if we've helped you.
Of course you have so much. I won't feel absolutely safe until we dock, though, and I see the real Harry waiting for me at the pier. I know Ted and Jerry. They don't give up so easily. I do hope it works well at the pier and nothing goes wrong.
I don't think they've caught on.
I'm not sure. I have a terrible premonition that something awful's going to happen, especially since that night when the man went overboard.
Just skip the premonition. Keep calm.
I don't know what they're liable to do, what awful scheme they may have.
Why don't you just try to forget all about it until we reach Southampton?
I will, but it's difficult. I've tried bromides, long walks to tire myself out. I can't sleep. I can't calm down. That's your husband now, pretending, of course, that he's mine. I'll go to the bar, have a drink, give you two a chance to be alone.
Wow, both my wives. Very convenient.
I honestly think you're taking this too lightly.
Oh, am I?
I won't be satisfied until we've landed safely and the real Harry and I are off to Sheffield.
Aren't Ted and Jerry going there, too?
Yes, but my husband's bringing a private guide with him, and it's a quick trip. I was just telling Gail I'd leave you to...
See you later, Lola?
Certainly. Bye.
Strange feeling.
What is?
Being alone with another woman's husband.
Well, I hope you don't find it pleasant. Might become a habit.
Greg, what do you think Ted and Jerry have up their sleeves?
We'll see. You'll have to play any card they have very fast. Oh, speaking of what's being concealed around here, have you told anyone I'm a detective?
Oh, of course not.
And the assignment, the gold, the bonds, mentioned it?
Certainly not. Is there some on the ship? Being moved back to England?
Uh-huh. Hey, come on. Let's get out of here. It'll look very bad if you're found in here. But there's no harm in our walking the deck together.
There are those two creeps again, Ted and Jerry. They certainly turn up often, don't they? They couldn't be crowding us a little now, could they?
They could. Hi, Ted. Hello, Jerry.
Hello there. Hey, you two are really hitting it off, aren't you? Where's Lola?
Gone to the bar.
And she leaves you on a honeymoon like that? With a girl as pretty as Gail?
Well, she's not the possessive type.
Just curious, you know.
Speaking of curious facts, Ted, you and Jerry just showed up automatically when that man went overboard, didn't you? Just walking around, did it?
Yeah. Just walking around. Why?
Well, it's just that you two always pop up wherever Lola and I can be found. You turn up all over the place.
Look, my friend, I got some advice for you. Don't shoot your mouth off. Don't dream up a lot of things. Don't ask questions. It ain't healthy.
No, that's kind of you, Ted. Now, I have some advice for you two. Don't start up with me. That isn't healthy either. Now, get going. You heard me.
I'd like to...
Wait, Teddy, wait. Not now. Not here. Come on. See you around, friend.
Greg Collins, you're deliberately inside them. You'll get your head knocked off.
That's part of the idea, Gail. I wanted to try something. It'll force the whole thing out into the open.
And where are you dashing to now?
The radio room. I'm going to try to reach the real Harry Prentice by cable.
How can you? What for? What are you up to?
Look, pal, don't ask questions. It ain't healthy.
Greg simply would not explain, and there wasn't a thing I could do about it. But be patient, folks. In just a minute, we'll bring you the climax of the case. The next morning, our ship pulled into Southampton. Lola seemed to be in high spirits, feeling the worst was over. We came down the gangplank together, Greg, Lola, and I. Ted and Jerry were walking a little behind us as we stepped off the gangplank and onto the pier.
Harry must be here somewhere. I can't wait to see him.
Is he anywhere in that crowd, Lola? Behind the rope?
No, I don't see him yet. I'll find him back in the customs barrier, I'm sure. Don't say anything now. Here comes Ted.
Friends meeting you at the pier, Lola?
Oh, yes, Ted. I expected some. I was just looking for them.
I guess this is goodbye for us, eh, Lola? See you later somewhere?
Mr. Collins?
Yes, I'm Greg Collins.
You're Harry Prentice, aren't you?
What's this all about?
He isn't named Collins, Inspector.
Oh, yes, I am. You see, Ted, Jerry, I had friends waiting at the pier, too. They're very anxious to meet you. Inspector McIntyre of the yard. We have men all over the dock, so I would advise no one to try anything.
This man is Greg Collins, and I'm his wife. First time I could say so in almost a week, and I don't mind announcing it at all. Now, let's go on from there.
Lola, what the devil have you done here?
Don't you start anything, Ted. Lola told us about the will.
The will? What will?
If you'll excuse me, I'd like to look for my husband. He must be at the other end of the pier.
I hardly think so, Lola.
My arm. Oh, my arm, Mr. Collins.
Well, I just want to be sure he won't run off on some foolish errand, Lola. Harry isn't on this pier, is he? He isn't even in England, I'd say.
I don't know what you're talking about. Let go of me.
Go ahead, Mr. Collins. Let's have the rest. Your husband's at the bottom of the ocean, isn't he, Lola? Your beloved husband you've been so worried about. Right? He's dead and gone.
Inspector, I appeal to you. This man...
Continue, Mr. Collins. When the roll call was made after a man went overboard, they said Greg Collins was missing. That meant Harry was really the man that was missing, didn't it? I'd taken his place, hadn't I?
Lola, if you pulled a trick like that...
Oh, she did, Ted.
She murdered Harry?
Certainly. I knew your husband must have registered on board, Lola, or the roll call would never have come out that way. Your husband worked for an international bank, all right. He was helping bring gold and bonds and other valuables to London. He wanted to keep his presence on board very quiet, so he stayed in his cabin, allowed no one to spot him. That played right into your hands. You had a smuggling gimmick figured out with Ted and Jerry. They'd knock him out, use his papers, his keys, get access to the bullion, sneak some of it off the ship on that luggage you pointed out to me.
You can't prove any of that.
Then you got greedy. You decided you wouldn't have to split with Ted and Jerry. You do it all yourself. They'd never seen Harry. You got me to portray your husband. Ted and Jerry'd go off on a wild goose chase trying to kill me. They'd step into trouble I didn't expect. Meantime, you killed Harry yourself. Dragged the body out in the dead of night and shoved it into the sea.
Evidence, Greg. I don't see how you can really prove it.
Remember when you and I hid behind that lifeboat? You got white paint on your nose?
Certainly.
They had just painted the lifeboat. When Lola came out on deck, she was in pajamas, remember?
Why, you...
It struck me as being just odd enough to call for some investigation. So, during one of the many times I was in your cabin, Lola, I looked at your dresses. One of them had a big white smudge on it. Paint. From the lifeboat. Don't tell me you can explain how that happened. Gad and I hid behind one for a reason, but why did you? Could it be you hit the dead body there till you got the right moment when the deck was deserted so you could push it over? Could it be you sweated it out when somebody saw the body go over and turned in an alarm? Could it be you saw the murder rap coming if they found that body in the water?
Then there isn't any will. Or any dead uncle.
Inspector, I'd like to take a small bet with you that Lola has a very fancy trunk with hidden compartments. And in the compartments, you'll find very high-valued negotiable bonds, securities, maybe some pure gold, all of which was in Harry's custody. And if you'll check with the purser...
I already did. Harry Prentice had a safe deposit box. Lola Prentice here visited quite a few times, without being watched or questioned, of course, being his wife. The box is quite empty. That stuff in the trunk, too, Mrs. Prentice?
No. You talk to these two, Ted and Jerry.
You can't hold us, Inspector. We didn't do a thing.
Except plan to lift all those valuables with Lola Prentice. Except plan homicide before she beats you to it. Shall we get off the pier? I've a car waiting. Come along, Mrs. Prentice.
Oh, well, Lola. Yes, Mrs. Collins? My curiosity is killing me. The jig's up, so I presume you'll tell the truth. I think I know all about this crime, but...
Yes?
You spend so much time alone with my husband. I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering.
Wondering what?
Did he ever kiss you?
The car's waiting, and we've the boat train to catch the London Gale.
Well, Lola...
Suppose we leave that part of the mystery unsolved, shall we? After all, it's the best part, isn't it?
I hate that woman.
Oh, she was just being coy. A woman would get satisfaction, Gail, from not answering that question you
I
asked.
hate you, too.
Yeah, this is a fine, high-class London hotel. We're comfortable. And the food's better in England now. We theater tickets, dinner dates with friends. Relaxed. Enjoy your stay here.
How did Scotland Yard know you wanted them to meet you here at the dock?
Oh, when I went to the radio room, I wired the yard to ask if they knew a Harry Prentice. They wired back that he worked for an international bank and was on board our ship with valuables. So I told him to meet us and have the whole pier covered. Just in case Ted, Jerry, or Lola decided anything fancy.
How long will we be here?
Well, it'll take about a week to wrap up my assignments. The British government's bringing lots of valuables back to London on various ships and planes. Don't ask when or where. And you can go on shopping sprees. I'll be back every night.
Oh, look, Greg. The Thames. It's corny, but every time I look out the window in London, I get a big charge.
Yeah, so do I. Parliament, Westminster. The Bobby's on the corner. Yeah, I'm a real pushover. Tourist type, gawking, wide-eyed American. It's a thrilling view from here, isn't it?
Uh-huh. thrilling, darling.
You seem so thoughtful, Gail. What are you thinking? About it? Wishing we were on our honeymoon again?
No.
Want to duck tonight to date and go somewhere alone? That's what you're thinking, huh?
No.
Thinking of how much you love me?
No.
What is it, darling?
I hate that woman. I hate that woman. Don't go away. In just a moment, we'll be back with you.
Well, folks, Gail and I hope you enjoyed our adventure, the Dead White Lifeboat. Be sure to visit us next time for another puzzle in murder. For where there is crime and romance, there you'll find Mr.
And Mrs. Collins.